Hi everybody, my name is Rory Townsend. I want to share something that is sort of for anybody who is like a young adult or much older adults. Might be difficult to grasp or to understand what's going on. I got a call from somebody who needed to chat about something. They have teenage daughters and wanted to know what was going on. They had a very unsettling feeling about what they were hearing their daughter was involved with. Um, and I don't know if I'm considered as any sort of expert on the matter, but I've got two adults at the moment. I've got two daughters that are adults, and I think they're pretty well adjusted. So anyhow, I went across and I went to go and chat with him. And the first sort of message that I got, I kind of thought, well, one doesn't have to be too concerned because what I heard that was coming from there sounded like something that I do in my daily understanding of technology, which is augmented reality. And it's also this metaverse, the new metaverses that you have, which Facebook basically brought in, where if you're running a company, you can create a software sort of duplicate of your company. Say you're running events, you create a software ecosystem, and people would put headsets on or come on the computer and come to, let's say, a convention. And they come to the one stand and they will meet up with the one service provider, but it's all virtual. So the service provider connects in and they will be talking to the other person. But you navigate your way through this virtual world. It's sort of an augmented reality world. So when I heard this teenager talking and explaining in front of their parents, this is what it's about, I like said, okay, this is something that I'm familiar with. This is like new technology, everything. But then when I listened again and the parents were being maybe overreacting, I listened to what they were saying, and then I asked the teenager to kind of explain a bit more. And then I was introduced, or I was a rude awakening for me to find out what was happening in this space. What it is, it's called shifting. So what the kids are doing, the teenagers are doing, is they're practicing a thing where you shift from this reality into an alternate reality or alternate universe. So it's pretty much to use, how can I say, if you consider daydreaming would be you're sitting and your mind wanders off somewhere and the teacher calls you and says, hey, catch your wake up, and you're like, oh, you were busy, playing with your friends outside, but that's in your mind, you were doing that. And they're pretty much saying, well, it's something like that you move from this reality and you shift into this alternate universe. Okay, so initially I thought, daydreaming, etc. But I am wary about just taking that at face value, because I know what a lot of people do, whether it's in politics, whether it's in all areas. They start with the known and they move to the unknown and they bring them together and they say, because you're familiar with the known, it's just like the known, but just slightly different, maybe a higher level or a different level. So it makes people accept these things much easier, because they go, it's like daydreaming. A kid sits around, plays with their dolls. There's no people there, but they'll be talking to their dolls. They'll be talking to their invisible friends, etc. And it's just like that, but we've just, refined it a bit. So I said to the parents, look here, let me look into this. I don't want to make comment on this now. I thought it was to do with all of the technology, which it's zero to do with that, because it doesn't involve playing a game or getting into a metaverse or something like that. This is something quite different. I then got some little bit more information from the teenager, and then I started doing a bit of research to find out what this setup is all about, what the shifting is all about. So it's shifting into a different universe. The first research I did was I picked up somebody that was talking about the preparation before you go into this alternate universe. The fact that you write a script of how you going to find yourself in that universe, what happens in the universe, what special codes you're going to get out of it, and then what's the post setup. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, for an innocent teenager looking at something like this seems like a more of a construct of something that I was familiar with when I was a child, when my mom was involved back then. She's liberated now, of course, but back then she was involved with the occult. Now, I don't want anybody just to jump to conclusions and say, you know, this is the occult or whatever, but I'm saying when she was involved there, she was doing things that sounded very similar to what I was reading about, what the shifting is about. It's you lie down in a certain position, what they refer to as a star position or whatever, and then your mind, you take your mind into the place, you know, breathing and all that sort of stuff, and then you're going to move yourself from this into this other reality, and then in this other reality you script, so you can decide to script it before you get there exactly what you want in that world. So for me, initially at the surface level, it sounded like a bit of escapism. So if I have a problem, yeah, I'm going to go there and say that's my real world, which is a common thing with kids who get bullied and don't want to work in this space of life. They move into an alternate universe and that's where they live. But when they get back into this space, they now have to deal with life. So it sounded something similar to that. But where it started getting a bit weird for me is the similarity between those processes of getting into this alternate reality and what this occultic practice, which was astral projection, sounds like. So it's transcendental meditation and astral projection. These are things where I remember still my mom used to get out of her body. She could see the car outside, what the number plate was. It was a spiritual thing that was weird. It was occultic things. So she could get out of her body and look at her body lying on the bed there. It was that level of stuff. And the preparation to move into this alternate reality that we're talking about now sounded really similar to what I was familiar with, exposed to with my mother's setup. So it was astral projection, transcendental meditation. So that set up alarm bells for me. So I didn't want to be over speculating. I kind of looked a bit more into it, but it was difficult to separate the two. It seems so very much intertwined. Now, if it was me as a parent at that stage, I'll immediately go like, this is it. Where's the source of all of this coming? But I understand a lot of parents can't just do that because they need to understand it a bit more. So I'll just give a few sort of opinions on it. But the source of all of this at the moment is coming from primarily TikTok. So the youngsters on TikTok are talking about this, giving tutorials how to get, you know, into this reality. Now, don't confuse it with augmented reality. Augmented reality is what I said at the start, when you're wearing a headset and you go into a virtual computer. It's a computer 3D model, and you go and you're playing games in that. It's not that. It's done without software. You basically lie in the position, script where you go into, and then you move into that alternate universe. So that is very different. It's getting onto a spiritual level. And we're not talking religion here. I have my religious viewpoints, but we're talking about getting into spirit areas. And when you get into that area, we do not, or I should say most people do not understand what happens beyond that point. We have enough historical documents where there are people where spirits have possessed bodies and everything like that. I don't want to be quoting things on that, but there's demonic oppressions and all that. But we don't want to see a demon behind everything. And you know, your children aren't demon possessed at this stage, but if they allow themselves to open up for too much, it can go down that way. So what are the sort of things that one should be wary about in this whole thing is that it becomes a mechanism of escape for your children. Your children never face the reality. So if they get scolded at home, they go into their room, lock their room, and they try to go into this alternate universe where they are king of their lives. They script what they want to see. So they will experience what they want to experience. If they get bullied at school, they will do this and move into that space. But the point about it is you ultimately have to come back into your own reality and then face this. So the kids become psychotic, they go into depression because they don't want to live in this world, they want to live in that world that they create. But if they live in the world that they create and they stay there, they can't eat, of course, because there's no food. They can imagine they're eating and make that a real world, but their physical human body will go down. I've heard quite a few people say already that this universe that we're living in, or this reality, is not the true one. It's the one that they go and visit. So you can see where this starts to become really, really weird in its thing. But without getting into all the psychoses and everything, I'm going to give my closing sort of remark from a parental point of view. As a parent, we are given two tasks, is to love our children and to protect them. And I think if you love your kid and you want to protect them, take away the source of where this is coming from. It's not good. They can explain it away. Anybody, you can get a lot of adults that could explain anything away. You had people in world wars that could explain the rationale while they're killing other people. The human nature is that we can do wrong and we can justify it. So as a parent, you've got to do what's in your heart. If you feel uncomfortable about it, you need to action on that. From my point of view, if it was me, I'd immediately remove the source, which is all the TikTok videos which do all the justifying of stuff. So you have that away, and the child can throw a tantrum like they want to, but if there's no further information, they can't be constantly encouraged and sort of dig deeper into it. There's another platform that is totally dedicated to like the purist in this shifting thing. Find out what that is if they're looking at that, and just get that out of their space. That's the best way that you can protect them. The second thing that I can truly recommend, now this is getting onto my stance as a dad with my kids. I grew up following in scriptures, and it's about the best because we've been created, and our Creator gives us certain patterns to be able to work through challenges in life. I believe getting in connected with our Creator, I refer to Him as Yahweh. I mean, most people say God. Yahweh is just the Hebrew word for it, for our Creator. And I go to Him and I said, you, the author, you've created us, body and spirit. Okay, that spirit inside of us can be contaminated when we open ourselves up to it. Remember when we were small, there used to be Ouija boards, we used to do glossy. That is inroads for evil spirits, for bad meaning spirits to get inside. And once they get inside, it's difficult to get them out if you are not linked into Yahweh's source of creation and source of power and solutions, His kingdom plan. So I would say if you want to do something to deal with your kids' problems they're going through, whether it's bullying, in any of those environments, rather create an environment that is very godly. It is something that shows love, that shows patience, that shows peace. I'll leave you with this, that God said there's two important commandments, is to love Him with all your heart and all your mind and all your understanding. And the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. He's given us the power to overcome things in this life, in this world. And when your kid starts to say they can't overcome it here because they don't have the tools, it's maybe they don't have the Creator, the one who's created them, in their lives to be able to empower them through it. He does that to me, He does it to millions of people on a daily basis. My children also are prospering in life because they are following His guidance. And He's created us, He knows best for us. Instead of sending your kids or allowing them to go into that alternate universe and create their own solution, if they have the problem and they take it into that universe, it just perpetuates. They'll be thinking they're dealing with it, but when they get back into their real lives, it will then, they'll go into psychosis, they'll go into depression and all that sort of stuff. So you need to keep them totally away from that area. I don't have all the luxury of the hours to go into total depths with all of the mind things and the fact that they'll tell you, no, this is scientific because it's, all this logics and everything. You don't have to go in that. If you as a parent are feeling unsettled, act on that, because you're doing it out of the fact that you love them and you want to protect them. And how many times have parents done things out of love and wanting to protect them, didn't understand what it is, and then later you will find out the wisdom in all of that. When God gives you a child, He gives you the tools and the sensitivity to know when to act with it. So my opinion would be, if it was my kids, I would remove the source of all of that, get them aligned to dealing with their reality. If they're being bullied, you go and you help sort out that. If you are being very nasty with them in the home as parents, maybe love them a bit more as such. And that needs to be a solution, not for them to go to this alternate space to go look for happiness and solutions in that area. And many children will probably, I use a harsh term, but hate the parents for disempowering them from, being on their own, etc. But do what is necessary at this stage. You don't want to get to that point where it's too late to pull it back. And a little practical hint would be, when they go into this lie down and do the pre-shifting and all these phases, I'd recommend that no one locks their door. No teenager should basically lock the door in any case. Just make sure that you check up on them regularly, that they're not in some weird spaces. I know they talk about they get a secret password, that if they go into this alternate space, they can say the password and gets them out. That is just fabricated stuff to make people believe that, it's not dangerous. You can't be left in that universe, because if you wake up, you wake up. But it's not got to do with these mechanisms. It's got to do with what it's opening the children to, what it's opening them to in their spiritual space. And remember, evil forces, when I say that, I'm talking about real demonic forces. And this might sound like a religious thing, but demons exist. If you have seen somebody that's demon possessed, you will not doubt that. Okay. So people who are demon possessed, the demons, the evil forces, need a body to occupy. And these things, the Ouija boards, this shifting things, opens up these doors that allows it in. It's not every child that does this or experiments with it is going to be demon possessed. Please don't go down that route. But it does create that option, that evil demonic forces need bodies to occupy. And you don't want your child to be in a space where their mind goes blank. They go into this alternate reality and open themselves up. They get there, and then these forces mess up with them. And when they come back into their own reality, they have to deal with all of that. Then eventually they don't want to live. They want to just stay in that space. So I would say love them, care for them, give them everything to overcome it in this world here, and get them out of that space. That's just my recommendation as a parent. You are still free. You're running your own child's life. You know best with them. So be blessed, and I trust that Yahweh would give you sufficient strength to overcome, to help your children get through it, and that His shalom, His peace, will pass all understanding and bring that peace into your home. So be blessed, and Amen.